Basically, we have somebody who does deals in the billions, deals in the hundreds of millions, deals in the tens of millions, and deals in the single millions. So that I think is a very good panel to start asking a question, which is, next year, this year, 2008, is it going to be as bad as people think? And are the macro circumstances so bad with maybe $500 billion credit crunch originated in the States, which by now has become the biggest debtor, world beggar? Is that going to really hurt the global economy, or are we okay in technology, and are we going to continue doing deals, and is it business as usual? Maybe we'll start now with KKR.
I think that we are facing one of the most serious financial crises we have seen in the last 30 years. That may be a very US-centric view, but if you look at how the US authorities are scrambling, you're seeing, one day the Fed decreasing rates by 50 basis points, the other day George Bush going in front of the cameras announcing $140 billion of fiscal stimulus. It is very serious. The old rule is still in place here, which we all learned in the new economy. When things are going nuts, 3 years down the road, they implode in flames. And that's exactly what happens in the money market in terms of the easy lending, especially in the US and the mortgage market. And we're seeing some of the consequences now.
Okay, so at the $1 billion level, the world is shaking. Let's go down to the $100 million level. What's happening at that level?
I think that's a difficult question to answer in a minute, but I'll try my best. I think with all downturns in the economy, you're going to see a reduced level of activity in the venture space across all spectrums. Having said that, I think certain economies like India and China, you will continue to see a capacity of investment simply because the domestic market are growing at such a phenomenal rate that those countries will be the future bread and butter of the world. Moving on the optimistic side across Europe, which is where we are, I think from an investor standpoint, these turbulent markets end up being the markets when you make some of your best investments. Because these are times when those who buy with equity rather than leverage finance tend to be in good positions. But for the entrepreneur, I think the good business models will continue to come out. It's the more shaky or the unproven business models that will start suffering.
Yeah, let me interrupt there before we go on. I was at a dinner 2 nights ago, and I can't disclose the whole circumstance, but I was told that the other bidder for the Wall Street Journal that almost came across was the Times of India. Okay, that the Times of India was very close to buying the Wall Street Journal away from Rupert Murdoch. So I think that it is true what you're saying, that maybe China and India say, well, we're out. Maybe that would be good to be rescued at that level, because also for sovereign wealth, the sovereign wealth funds are unbelievable. I mean, that's something that the only people who really seem to have cash now are the governments of these people who used to borrow from the IMF, and after having so many problems with the IMF, they say, we never want to hear about the IMF again, and the only way not to hear about the IMF was basically to pile up $1 of cash, which is also what my native Argentina used to do, which used to borrow always from the IMF, and now it's sitting on 55 billion, which is nothing compared to the trillions of China, but it's certainly more than what Argentina had before, so I think you have a good point there. Okay, Simon, at the tens of millions dollar level, are we in trouble, or is it business as usual?
At a high level, I think the world is in for some turbulence, at least for the next year or two. So in the UK, where I live, we had a run on the bank called Northern Rock last year, which is the first time in over 100 years that there have been queues of consumers standing outside a bank trying to get their money out before they run out. So that was unique. And as a partnership, I mean, we've had a very healthy and vigorous internal discussion as to how bad the next year or two will be. Will it be like 2000, 2001? Will it be like 1929? My own view is that this is still a great time to be an entrepreneur, and that our money will continue to be invested at the same kind of rate over the next year or two. but that it may be the case that because public market valuations contract, that some of the valuations may change. But given that we're investing today to eventually bring liquidity to companies in perhaps 3, 5, 6 years' time, if you have to take a medium to long-term outlook like that, then there is no problem to invest now. But it may be that the valuations suffer a little bit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, Simon. I also think that it's interesting at the level at which you invest, it's equity only. And at the level that you invest, KKR, is equity and debt. So in a credit crunch type of situation, and also with a shorter term horizon over a 4 or 5 year horizon, an all equity economy is less hurt, right? Because technology companies have a lot of risk, but because of that, they generally don't have debt, unless they're really cash flow producing technology companies. And how is the early stage thing, Morten? Are you getting, what's your view on that?
Well, I don't really know, but well, in a market where it seems like the stock market is competing with George Bush and losing faith from the people, it's of course very interesting to go out and be aggressive. I mean, I love recession. I mean, that's why I've been building my stuff, and I came from, I had a paper round, you know, so I'm just very happy I could build without any loans, without anything but energy. And you know, right now I have 80 weird companies around the world. I mean, the Dubai things are going really well. We're listing a company in India, which will be a vehicle to buy a lot of interesting stuff, and it's very new for me, all this IPO, blah, 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 but it's super interesting as a vehicle. And I mean, I have the fastest growing, one of the fastest growing online companies in Brazil, also, I mean, going through the roof, and 3 million revenue, 50, like 3 years, and so yeah, I'm just super positive. I mean, I really can't wait. And the really cool thing is all the people who decide to believe in the new big religion of the world, which seems to be materialism. You have the butcher's wife waiting in line to buy a Louis Vuitton bag for 1,000 euros. I mean, how stupid is that? I think that's all. I mean, that it's just reality kicking in, and then we'll have a shake-up. And I can't wait. And also, I love what Warren Buffett said. You know, when the tide is out, you can see who's swimming naked.
Well, so I think the conclusion we see is as we go, you know, from the stratosphere of deals, the multi-billion-dollar deals, to the deals which are early stage, the optimism has risen, right? And I think that's because the people who run the world are very concerned right now about the macro circumstances, which are bad. But if you have a new technology that you're building for the next 5 to 10 years, you don't really worry so much about the macro circumstances, and you just want your technology to work. That is, the risk, your risk, is a personal risk and not a global risk. And I think that explains a little bit about how these different companies are going to work. Now let me ask...
Also it's important to say that, I mean, it's a historic time. If you have energy and network, you can do anything with a laptop. I mean, there is no end. I mean, you've done it yourself very early, and now doing it with a phone and stuff. I mean, there is nothing you can't do with energy.
Yes. You know, what I see, let's say at the level of the things I do, is that other than running fund, which is my main activity, I do some investing as well, and that's why I was curious. Like last year when they asked me what I wanted to do at DLD, I said that was interested in social entrepreneurship and philanthropy, which is why I was working with Negroponte and other people, and that's partly related to what my foundations do. But this year I was very excited about a company, Eolian, which I invested, and it's going public now for 700 million euros in Spain. And it was the first time that I really did nothing and made a lot of money, right? So I said, well, why do I work my ass off as an entrepreneur all the time when I could be one of you guys and just pick a winner and make a lot of money? So I decided to learn from you, and maybe I want to also be an investor.
Some investors do more than nothing, Martin. Just so you know.